welcome. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm going to share something with you today that I've been sort of keeping under my vest for a very long time, but it's made a huge difference in my magic, and I hope it will make a difference in yours as well. By the way, I'm going to offer this to you, and if you want it, please send me an email. You can email me at david@daviddellman.com. Here is the requirement, though, if you will. If you send me that email, I want to add you to my email list. I send out information on a weekly basis, inspiration, ideas, tips, suggestions. Send me an email. Tell me that you want this. Ask me to put you on the email list. I'll send it out to you. It's a Word file. Now, you don't know what it is yet. I haven't told you. Here's what it is. This is a structure for creating original material. It's a structure I've been using for many years. Let me tell you a little bit about how it started. I was attending a Bob Cassidy lecture at Denny's shop. It was when it was in Essex. Well, it was before it moved to Golden Ring. It was or the Yellow Brick Road location. He had Bob Cassidy come in and lecture. And Bob Cassidy said, and this is what was so life-changing for me, when you perform, you need to have a silent script running in the back of your mind. What he meant by that was you have in mind the exact effect that you're trying to communicate, that you're trying to express. Now, you wouldn't come out and say that. You wouldn't come out and say, oh, you know what, I'm trying to read your mind. Some people do, that's fine. But mind reading is an effect. And if you don't say it, and probably you shouldn't, because what you should do is demonstrate it. But in the back of your mind, you should have that as, oh, this is what I'm trying to demonstrate. And by the way, there's different kinds of mind reading. And we're going to get into some of the different types and styles in a moment. But there is, for example, there's clairvoyance. Clairvoyance is the ability to be able to see what is hidden. There is clairaudience. Clairaudience is the ability to be able to hear words or to hear thoughts or ideas that are otherwise hidden. There's precognition, which is the ability to see or perceive events in the future. And then there's telepathy, which is thought-to-thought communication. So in the back of your mind, you have this silent script running where you know what it is you're trying to, the effect that you're trying to create. You don't necessarily see that to the audience, but you know what it is. Now, silent script, Bob Cassidy, show, don't tell. The silent script was referred to as conceit by Harry Anderson. And here's what he meant. The conceit is the unspoken but intentional message that you are trying to communicate. Let me read that to you again. The conceit is the unspoken but intentional message that you're trying to communicate. Di Vernon famously said, confusion's not magic. Well, having a silent script, understanding what your silent script is, and by the way, it's called a silent script because it's just that. It's a script, but it's silent. It's something that you don't say. It's in your mind. It helps you formulate the routine on the back end and communicate the effect on the front end when you're performing. I'm going to share a few quotes with you that are part of these notes. And by the way, what I'm offering to you is a structure. The structure actually has 6 parts. There is the title, and I'm going to go through these 6 parts in more detail. There's the title, there's the silent script, there's the setup, there's the source material, there's the story, and then there's the routine. Now I'm going to go through each one of these sections one at a time. John Archer said, if you feel really comfortable about everything you are doing on stage, you look more relaxed. And both you and the audience will enjoy your performance more. If there's anything you are uncomfortable about, you will look worried, and that worry will be transmitted to your audience. John Archer. Now, the reason I have this quote in there at the very beginning of these notes is to remind me that I need to be comfortable with my material. Now, there's a couple of ways to be comfortable with your material. One is to rehearse it and rehearse it until it's there. The other is to do it over and over again in front of a live audience. But there's an intuition inside of each one of us that sort of gives us a check and a balance that says intuitively, this material is not for you, or this material is for you. We need to listen to that inner voice and start doing the material that is us and leaving aside the material that is not. That's what makes us unique. That's what gives us a unique selling position. That's what sets us apart from other performers. Doc Hilford said, enthusiasm is contagious. When you perform, think, I would rather be here doing this than anything else in the world. That is a silent script. Thurston used to stand backstage before he would come out, and he would say over and over again, I love my audience, I love my audience, I love my audience. That was his silent script. Now, he said it verbally, but no one else could hear him saying it. You have to choose the most appropriate effect from a list of effects that you're trying to communicate. What is it? Now let me go through that. By the way, this you can get a list of effects from a lot of different books. I believe I'm using the one, actually there are several that are referred to in The Trick Brain by Daryl Fitzke. I've talked about the Fitzke trilogy before. If you don't own The Trick Brain, you should definitely pick it up. In the beginning of the book, he lists a number of different classifications for effects. This is so important, folks. You know, if you're out there performing and you don't know what effect you're trying to present, how can your audience understand that? How can they grasp it if you don't? You might see something that's magical. You might see something that entertains you. Ask yourself the question, what have I seen? What was the effect? So here are some possibilities. By the way, Darren Brown also has a classification in his great book called Absolute Magic. You might want to refer to that as well. There are psychic phenomena, there are biological anomalies, there are spiritualistic phenomena, there's synchronicity, which I put in a different class. It doesn't need to be, but it's in a different class. Then there's what I call conventional magic. Conventional magic includes productions or creations, vanishes or disappearances, transformations, transpositions, and defiance or suspension of natural law, including anti-gravity, suspension or levitation, animation, as in the dancing handkerchief, matter through matter or penetration of solid through solid, restoration of matter, invulnerability, and rapid germination. Now let me go back to psychic phenomenon, for example, for an instant. Psychic phenomena includes teleportation, telekinesis, or psychokinesis, same thing, hypnotic control, sympathetic response, clairvoyance, clairaudience, precognition, telepathy, psychometry, divination, rapid calculation, and phenomenal memory. Now, I'm not going to go into what these are. You can easily look these up on the internet. Google them if you don't know. But every time I create or design or develop a mentalist effect, I'm asking myself the question, what is it? Is it teleportation? Is it telekinesis? Is it hypnotic control? Sympathetic response, clairvoyance, clairaudience, precognition, telepathy, psychometry, divination, rapid calculation. I'm trying to decide what it is I'm trying to communicate. Now, spiritualistic, by the way, biological anomalies, vivification, biofeedback or biorhythmic control, life transference, and physical anomalies. I don't do a whole lot of that, but it's a very interesting area to explore. I don't think you see a lot of it right now. Most mentalists focus on thought transference or intuition. They don't really focus on some of those more, if you will, bizarre type effects, and I think it's a much neglected area. Spiritualistic phenomenon, I'm very careful about because, as I've mentioned before on this series, I'm a believer. I'm a true believer in spiritualism. So I want to be very careful, and I'm a true believer in ESP as well. So you might say, well, if that's your criteria, then why would you be doing mentalism anyway? But you would just want to be. I do hints of it. In spiritualistic phenomena, you're talking about the manifestation of a spirit or alien entity. Now, I have not seen it, but I believe that David Copperfield is manifesting alien entities in his show in Las Vegas. But the manifestation of spirit is certainly an area that you can explore depending on the kind of magic you're doing. Then there's synchronicity. Now, I put this in a whole different classification. As you probably know, I'm a tarot reader as well as a magician, and I take tarot very seriously. I treat it very seriously. I'm a sincere reader. And synchronicity really relates to the spiritual principle, if you will, that undergirds what makes the tarot effective. Carl Jung defined it this way: the coincidence of events in space and time as meaning something more than mere chance. Let me share with that again. The coincidence of events in space and time as meaning something more than mere chance. That's Carl Jung. So the theory behind any divination device is that something beyond chance is determining how those things are laid down on the table for you to read. That's synchronicity. It's a great area to explore in performance magic. And then you come to conventional magic, what I call conventional magic. This is what you typically think of magicians doing. These are actual supernatural events. I don't know that you think of it in those terms. I think a lot of magicians don't think in those terms, but if you start to think in terms of I'm creating an illusion of a supernatural event, I think if that alone is your silent script, it begins to infuse your magic with meaning and purpose. So here are 4 ways in which a standard magical effect can be produced. And again, this is a silent script, okay? This is what you are believing the purpose is, or the modus operandi. Even though it's not, even though you're creating an illusion, this is what you have in the back of your mind. Number 1, deceptive means. Manipulation of natural events so as to create the illusion of a supernatural event. It's perfectly fine if that's your silent script. Number 2, the power of the human mind. Think in terms of telekinesis, for example. I'm holding a spoon and I concentrate and the spoon bends. Now, how did it bend? That is an important silent script to keep in your mind. Did it bend because I was concentrating and the force of my thoughts caused it to bend? Or did it bend because I invited some spirit entity to bend it for me? Why did it bend? That is a silent script. By agency of a third party, this is number 3, by agency of a third party, a supernatural being acting in conjunction with the magician. That is one possibility. Then there is the manipulation of a third party entity by the magician. This is what historic witchcraft was all about. It was about conjuring spirits and compelling them to do your will. It's not explored very much on stage in performance magic. It's certainly a possibility if you want to go that route. Now, I went over the standard effects, but let me share them with you one more time. There's productions or creation of matter, right? There's exciting things. Think about the egg bag for a minute. You've got this egg, this empty black bag. You've demonstrated that it's empty. Then you put your hand inside and you pull out this fragile egg. That is a moment of magic. How did the egg get produced? Where did it come from? These are parts of the silent script that can be running in your mind. A vanish or disappearance, transformation of one thing into another. Think of the biblical story of changing water into wine. The Bible says that was Jesus' first miracle. Why was that important? Why was it important to emphasize that was his first miracle? because he changed the constitutional nature of one thing into something else. That's a significant miracle, because what it says to you is, if I can change water into wine, I can change your nature from one thing to something else. That's why the miracle was done first. Then you have transposition. It vanishes from here, it reappears over here. Then you have defiance of or suspension of natural law. Anti-gravity was the beautiful levitations or suspensions. Animation, as in the dancing handkerchief. By the way, the dancing handkerchief started out as a spiritualistic effect. It was originally, the handkerchief was originally animated by spiritual means or by a third-party spirit entity. Then you have matter passing through matter, restoration of matter, the famous cut and restored robe, or the Gene Anderson newspaper tear. Invulnerability, rapid germination. You don't see rapid germination very much anymore. This is where a magician came out with an empty pot, took a seed, put the seed in the pot, and that seed grew into a tree on stage over the course of the show. You just don't see that much anymore. So let's go back and recap now. This presentation is about the silent script. It's about the script that runs in the back of your mind. You have the title. The title, it's very important, the title of your effects, because the title tells you a lot about the effect. Then you have the silent script. What is the silent script running in the back of your mind? Then you have the setup. Number 3, the setup. The materials and setup you will need to work the routine. I list out everything I need in order to achieve that effect. Exactly where it's going to be, exactly where it is in the show. I list it out so I know what I need. And there's nothing worse, folks, than getting on stage and realizing that you forgot something very important to the material. Just, a lot of people take their effects and they put them in a case or container individually. And they have everything they need for that effect right there in that case or container. For smaller effects, you can use Ziploc bags for this. It's very effective, folks. Then you have the source material. Now, to me, it's very important to source where I'm getting my material from. Now, it's very hard to source every individual thing. The counts that you use, in card magic, some of the sleights, it's very important. But if you have a primary source for this effect, you need to list it so that if you're ever in a position where you need to say, oh, this originated here, you can do. I think it's very important ethically. It's very important for you to understand what the roots of your effects actually are. That's the source material. Story. This is number 5, story. Let me share with you some things. This is a Doc Hilford quote. The story or the conversation you create should be interesting without the magic. Think about that for a second. Let me share that with you one more time. Doc Hilford. The story or the conversation you create in your presentation should be interesting without the magic. The story you tell is more important than the magic because the story is the connection between you and the audience. Let me share that again. The story you tell is more important than the magic because the story is the connection between you and your audience. The story you tell provides the context, and the context provides the meaning. Until you have a story that is so strong it could stand alone as a piece of engaging entertainment without the magic, you're not ready to present the effect. That's my opinion. My opinion. Now finally, the last thing that you're ready to do is to write out the entire routine. What are you going to do? When are you going to do it? What is your actual physical script? What are the words you're going to say? That's your routining. So once again, you have 6 parts. Title, silent script, setup, source material, story, and routine. Now I have this available to you. It is actually 6 pages long because it contains a lot of notes. I will share this with you. It is a Word file. What I'm asking is that you send me an email, david@daviddellman.com. Dellman has 2 L's, Dellman. Send me an email, and I will send you this, and I will add you to my mailing list. Thank you so much for joining me, folks. Please subscribe if you've not done so already. Please comment down below. I love your comments. Have a great day.